let's briefly analyze some of the competitors. The market for credit cards were completely dominated by two enormous giants, which were the two largest financial institutions in the country. The first one being Banamex, that had been acquired by Citibank, roughly speaking, about 2 years ago. Banamex Citibank accounted for, roughly speaking, 44.2% of the credit card market in Mexico. The second was a second Spanish bank, BBVA, that had last year acquired Bancomer, the second largest financial institution in Mexico. Bancomer accounted for, roughly speaking, 38.5% of the credit card market. So together, the two giants accounted for more than 83% of the credit card market in Mexico. In addition, there was HSBC, another large financial institution in the world that had entered the Mexican market and had acquired an institution similar in size to Serfin. They had acquired Banco Vital, and they held, roughly speaking, 6% or more or less the same amount of market share that Santander Serfin by acquiring Banco Serfin. And most of the other competitors were much smaller in size. Almost all of these banks offer very similar card combinations. So naturally, consumers did not perceive much differentiation among the different bank offers. In particularly, banks did not differentiate among the different risk profiles of customers, and there was little to almost no variation in the interest rates being offered on credit cards. In addition, most consumers had very little financial knowledge and cared very little. In fact, most people did not know what interest rates they were actually paying on their credit cards. Now, let's look a little bit more in detail as to how the credit cards competed in the Mexican market. There were more or less 5 attributes to differentiate the products. One of them was color. 3 products existed: platinum, gold, and silver. Each one of them with different sort of points and insurance associated, but with very small variations in commissions. Second was the interest rates, which I have already described before, where there was no differentiation whatsoever in the market. Third, there were value-added services, such as loyalty points and insurance, and the different retail and partner networks that made part of the loyalty program. In addition, there was the commissions, where the main commission fees were the annual, the renewal fees, and second card fees, and replacement or stolen card fees, etc., etc. And there was some small variation, but not much in the market as far as commissions are concerned. So consequently, banks offered very similar offers, and there was, as we stated before, very little differentiation or perceived differentiation amongst consumers. All right, so far we have already reviewed the context for the context in the country and the credit card market, the competitors, and the company. Now let's go more specifically as to what were Santander objectives for Mexico. Santander had 2 main objectives, one very short term and one bit more medium term. The first objective was to be able to double the market share of credit cards in 1.5 years, and the most immediate objective was to acquire 250,000 new customers within the next 6 months. So to be able to reach objective number 1, how many new credit cards does Santander needs to issue in order to be able to accomplish objective number 1? Let me try to walk you through this process. First of all, we need to start by how many cards that Santander already has right now. The bank had 589,000 cards, which in a country of 5.5 million cards, that gives the bank an existing market share of 10.7. Consequently, doubling the market share of cards means that within 1.5 years, we should be able to reach, roughly speaking, 21.4 market points. So, how do we go about estimating how many cars will there be 1.5 years from now in the Mexican market, or how many cars are expected to be? For that, we will look at the size of the market today and what the size of the market will be in a year and a half from now. Okay? The market today is 5.5 million. The best approximation that we have for how the market is growing is how the transactions are growing. And transactions are growing at the rate of 8% per year. So that will be equivalent to more or less an approximation of a 12% increase in the market within the next 1.5 years, which will actually give us a market of 6.4 million. Okay, now that we know what the size of the pie is going to be in a year and a half from now, or what is it expected to be, then we can estimate what having 21.4% of that pie will be, which will be approximately 1.3 million cards within a year and a half. So since Santander has right now 589,000 customers, that means that in order to reach objective number 1, they have to be able to sell 731,000 cars within the next year and a half. Or roughly speaking, which is to be able to grow at more or less 250,000 cars every consecutive period of 6 months. Wow, that is certainly an ambitious objective. Let's see if you can help Santander Serfin reach that objective and what would be the best way to go about it.